Okay, when I left off last time, I went ahead and I did the HTML. I have a couple of typos here, so I'm going to go back and fix that. Two of the things that I did was this should be a side, and it's a size. So it's side, and this footer probably should be a capital F. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then when I do File and Save All, and then come back to the web page, it should fix. So when I hit refresh, it'll go back and take another look, and sure enough, it works fine. So we just have an unordered list, and then we have a bunch of F1s. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is do some styling. Alright, so let me go ahead and shove this off a little bit. Alright, so now we have our styles. So the first thing we need to do is a start box. So I'm going to do dot. So we use a dot for classes. Remember, each of our HTML tags has a class of start box. So we're going to do start underscore box, and then braces encapsulate the attributes we want to change. So remember, we did an attribute of lang in our HTML tag. So these are all just attributes that go along to either a element or a class or an ID. Alright, so that's the first one that we're going to do is border style. So we're going to do border dash style. There it is. And it's going to be solid. Whoops. And the other one is going to be a border width. And we'll just make that 2 pixels. And then we'll add some padding. And that is 20 pixels. So that 20 pixel padding is 20 pixels up to the right, to the bottom, and to the left. So it's 20 pixels all the way around that box. So probably not much we can see right now. Let's do a file and save. And then a refresh. And you can see just put, whoa, there's 2 boxes, 2 missing boxes. What's going on there? And I bet what I've done is I forgot the class. So let's go back and take a look at our HTML. So what happens when I'm rushing with these videos? Sure enough. So each of these need a class of start box. So I'll go back and copy. I am not going back and redoing those videos. This is a good learning opportunity when your instructor messes up. So each one of these has a class of start box, and you can see what happens when that is not true. Alright, so now when I refresh it, nothing happens, and that's because I didn't do file. And I'm going to always use save all, because save all saves both our HTML and our CSS, even though most of the time both of them are not going to be changing. Just saves you from having to do this, and that is come over here and find nothing has changed. Boom, there you go. So now we have our 20 pixel padding on it, and we also have boxes around the entire one. Good. Alright, so now we're ready to go back and do our next one. Alright, so all we're doing for the rest of these is just background colors. So the first part is a selector, and the selector we're going to say is I want you to select the header element and change the background color. And I'm going to use aqua. It is not professionally okay to use words for your colors, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We should be using hex codes, or we should be using RGB values, because that's just professionally how you do it. There are 128 or 154 web safe colors, which means we don't have to worry about it, but really you should be using hex codes. I use colors here because it makes it easier for you to go back and see what's gone on, because nobody can remember that aqua might be 1F, 2A, 3C. So, but if you see aqua and you look at your thing and it's not aqua, you can go, okay, I see what's going on there. So let's do file, save all, and then I'll go back and refresh, and you can see that now our header has aqua. Great. Alright, I'll do the rest of them now without having to go check each one. The next one is we want to take a look at our nav element. Notice there's no period in front. Periods are for classes. When we're doing elements, we have no dots in front of it. So the nav, we want a background color. And this one, we're going to use wheat. Alright. Well, how about that? Wheat used to be highlighted because Sublime Text wasn't sure. That's what I have in the notes. But the newest version of Sublime Text says, hey, wheat's okay. Alright, so section, background color, lime. Alright, and then we have our next one is our side, and background color, and this is yellow. Whoops. And then our last one is going to be our footer, and for this one we're going to use a background color of fuchsia. There used to be only 6. Oh, that's not right. Didn't like that. So when I misspell it, you can see the color. There we go. Isn't right. These actually are part of the 16. Well, aqua, yellow, and fuchsia are part of the original 16 web-safe colors, and since then they've added more like lime and then wheat. Alright, so I'm going to do File and Save All. Then I'm going to go back and refresh the page. Great, all different colors. This is what I call the build and test methodology. You build it a little bit, then you test it. You build it, you test it. The reason why you want to do that, actually I did a lot of building, well, a lot of styling without testing. But I always did the first one, so I did header, background, and if it didn't work, I want to find that out right away. I don't want to do 5 of these and find out none of the colors are there. So if I misspelled background or use the wrong name, I want to find that out right away. Alright, so what's next? Alright, I think the next thing is to put a picture on there. Alright, so to get a picture, we need to save the file. So if I right mouse click and I do Save Image As, then I can go to my USB drive, which is 162, images. I want to put it in the images folder, wally.gif. Okay, now that I save that file, if I go back in my images folder, you can see there's Wally. Great. Alright, so we wanted to put that in the header section. So here's the header section. And I want to put that right above my H1. So I'm going to do IMG for image and then tab. And then since it's in my images folder, I'm going to do images and then a slash and then wally.gif. Okay, in addition to that, I want a couple of attributes, and these are the few attributes we actually put into our HTML. One is the alt tag, the alt attribute, and that is if the picture doesn't show up, what do you want to have on your page? And I'm going to put on here a picture of Wally from the Dilbert cartoon. Alright, so that's going to be there. Plus, people who are not able to see my web page because they're blind, the machine that's reading this will read that alt and let them know what they're looking at. The other thing is width and height, and there's kind of goes back and forth on what you can place in here, whether you should place it all there. You should be in the CSS. One of the reasons why they allow it in your markup is that the browser, when it's rendering your page, will see the fact that there's a height and width to it and then save that space. If it's in your CSS, the page will render, and then when the CSS is applied to it, then it'll go ahead and make the space. And they say, well, it's better to have that space there so that the rest of the objects around it aren't all hosed up while it's waiting for that picture to finally come in. So we're going to put it here. You might see in some other ones where I don't have it here and I have it in the CSS instead. Or we just leave it off completely and it just renders that picture, depending on whatever the native size of that is. Alright, let's do File and Save All. And let's take a look at the picture. Sweet. So you can see that the main title went down. If I come over here and I inspect that element, and this might be difficult, let's see. You can see, well, there for a second. You can see that main titles take up the entire space because the block level elements, that's why while he's sitting up ahead. So you have a couple of things we can do. We can float Wally, which means that it's taken out of the DOM, which means main title moves up and goes into the space, but it can't move in the space because Wally's in the way, so it'll move to the right of that. And the other one is to put it inline, make Wally an inline item, and then also main title an inline. Well, make main title inline, and then give it a specific width so it fits next to Wally. So this time we're going to be learning about floats, so we're going to use a float in order to be able to do that. I think we're going to do that. Let's see. Let's go back to my instructions. Yes, we are floating. Okay. Oh, I did it both ways. So which way do I want to do it? Okay, so we did both floating and inline block. So I come back here and I would do that and say, okay, well, what do I want to do? One is I can take a look at the image. So these are all in our header, so I'm going to put it right here. So I can say header, image, display, no, I'm going to say float. And I'm going to tell it that I want it to float to the left. Alright, let's do File and Save All. Come back here. And then refresh. Bam. Alright, so that moved up because this is no longer part of what we call the DOM. Now the browser knows that even though it's out of the DOM, so that this main title doesn't see it, that this is where people would want to see it. So it's not going to put main title over the top of it. The other thing I can do is change main title. So let's go ahead and do that. When we're making an inline block, what we're going to do is it's going to say that it has the same block properties, in fact that I can move things left and right from it, but its width will only be the width of the content within it. Alright, so let's go back here, and I'm going to go ahead and comment this out by selecting it, holding down the control key and pressing /. Alright, so now when I do File and Save All and go back, you can see now it's back to the way it was. And then I'm going to say, okay, well, what we want to do is we want to do the H1. So we'll do header H1, and we'll do display. So right now it has a property of block, and we'll use inline block instead. So it has the same block properties, except now it is only the size of the content. Oops. And then we'll refresh. Bam. Alright, so the only other thing we want to do is put a little bit of margin on that to move it over to the right. Margin left. And we make it 10 pixels. And, whoops. Disregard. Alright, and then refresh. Bam, and it moves it over from that. Alright, so that's it for this video. Up to 15 minutes already. Alright, so I am done.